If you're one of the over 1 million Canadians with a computer in your home, chances are it's a VIC-20 or a Commodore 64. Commodore International now has 60% of home computer sales worldwide. But it started with very humble roots, a typewriter store in Toronto and an aggressive entrepreneur named Jack Tramiel. But then last year, Tramiel was pushed out as head of Commodore. Now he's attacking it from across the street. Tramiel is running rival Atari with all the single-minded zeal he once used against it. It's said in the computer business that if Iacocca could bring Chrysler back to compete with the Fords who fired him, maybe Tramiel can do the same with Atari. The glare of neon, the dream of winning big, sooner or later brings all the high rollers to Las Vegas. But for 4 days in January, the big action is off the strip.
Jamie, upstairs.
You might as well take a peek so you can see it.
Inside the Mammoth Convention Center, Jack Tramiel and his marketing whiz, Jamie Copeland of Toronto, are preparing for the crapshoot of their lives.
So what have we got here?
They're betting the very existence of Atari on a new line of home computers. Some of them still being designed, none of them yet produced. But Tramiel is already boasting he'll sell 5 million of them this year, worth $1 billion. They're being made in Taiwan, and the engineers are still fiddling with their prototypes.
So how many did you bring over?
14 inches, 10 sets, 14 inches.
The machines will have to work tomorrow.
Dennis, Gary, could I just ask you to pull the banner out for me?
With the ribbon cutting, all the important store buyers will be swarming in to see if Tramiel and Copeland can deliver the machine they've promised.
This is beautiful, isn't it? But at the same time, we need to have the ones with the pizzazz, with the colors, etc.
Pizzazz to be sure, but mostly price. Tramiel is out to undercut the competition, and he's counting every penny.
You're talking about the...
I'm talking about the lowest printer. The lowest price printer which we gave to my buddy here, Jamie, and to Greg.
I can show that one too.
That's the 201.
So I happen to have it right over here.
Yes.
In the morning, the curious buyers are lined up.
So we are here today, on target, as planned, on time, with new state-of-the-art pioneering, new excitement, and ready to write a bold new chapter in the most dynamic business in the world. At this time, I would like to call on the Governor of Nevada, the Honorable Richard Bryan, to say a few words.
It is a coup to get the governor. Tramiel's roots in the industry are in Toronto, his production in Taiwan, head office California, but the company is incorporated in Nevada.
In Nevada, we regard this as Atari country, and we welcome Jack and his company to Nevada, congratulate them on their new line of personal computers, wish them every success in business, and Jack, we look forward to growing with you. Congratulations to Atari.
The congratulations are for being here at all. The resurrection of Atari is still mostly promises. Some didn't think Tramiel would get this far, and that's reason enough to celebrate.
But you should always remember the lean years and fat years.
And this is a hot dog year for Atari?
Now we have to be lean until we make, until we start selling and making a lot of money.
And next year?
Next year it's going to be champagne and caviar.
But only if this machine takes off. It's nicknamed the Jackintosh, Jack Tramiel's answer to Apple's famous Macintosh computer, for less than half the price. Tramiel's strategy is to slash prices in a market someone else has spent millions to develop. For that, he's loathed by competitors, but not the dealers.
You guys are dealers from what? Burlington, Hamilton, Fort St. John, BC. Why have you been waiting in line for 2 hours just to look at this?
Well, I want to see the new product line. We're quite excited, and hopefully they'll come up with some new product that'll be very competitive.
Do you think anybody can pull a company around after it's sunk as low as Atari?
I think if anybody can, Tramiel can.
A lot of sales jobs depend on it. This is the biggest trade show in North America. 100,000 dealers and wholesalers have come to Las Vegas to inspect the Orient's latest toys for grown-ups.
Let's show the magic.
Like the home computer, most are things we never knew we needed. World's thinnest TV, world's smallest TV. And things are not what they seem. Credit cards that are calculators, other cards that are radios, Coke bottles that are telephones.
Why can't phones look like phones and Coke bottles look like Coke bottles?
Why shouldn't Coke bottles look like telephones? Coke is it. Coke is the right shape. Right shape for America, right shape for USA.
And for example, if you're at your office and
There's even a doorbell that takes pictures in a house that talks.
punch in your house code, your house will say lights on in a female voice, as you may have heard.
Doesn't your wife talk enough around the house? Do you need the house itself?
I don't have a
to
wife.
talk
I'm a bachelor.
to?
I need one of these.
Can I get the autograph, though?
Eric.
Eric. How wonderful. I'll buy a car stereo, and you're my idol.
I bet you say that to all the centerfolds.
Concert hall car radios are very big this year. Some cost as much as the car.
And after spending all that money for your car stereo, you put out another $10 and buy this little clip-on phony front of a cheap radio, so all the thieves will think it's not worth stealing. It's progress.
But the market for progress is oh so fickle. Atari was built on the computer game fad. A runaway success one year, the company lost $500 million the next when the games went the way of the hula hoop. The all-around home computer was the next craze, but Atari couldn't keep up. 10,000 people once worked for Atari, headquarters here south of San Francisco. But by the middle of 1984, the staff was down to 3,000, and the owner, Warner Communications, was desperate to unload. Last July 2nd, Jack Tramiel pulled up in his Rolls after buying the whole thing as salvage the day before. He put up $25 million of his own money, plus a lot of paper and promises. Despite the losses, it was a stylish, civilized world at Atari until Tramiel arrived. He got rid of the posh offices, the executive dining room, and within a month, the executives themselves. Atari had 55 buildings 2 years ago. Today, under Tramiel, there is just this one.
What makes you so tough?
I know what survival is, and I know if you relax in business, right, it will not be very long that somebody's going to eat you up.
He managed to survive the Nazi concentration camps, and in business, his credo is lean and mean.
I think you said when you took over Atari that you're going to move it from a democracy to a dictatorship.
Correct.
How do you describe your style?
I like to have a philosophy. I like people to believe in a religion which I have established, and I would like that we should all march with the same step. I don't like to see people walking in 7 different directions. So there has to be a man on top.
The Commodore VIC-20. Welcome to the age of the computer.
That's how he ran Commodore for 25 years, building it from a typewriter shop in Toronto through electronic calculators and finally into the biggest home computer company in the world. Tramiel made Commodore 64 a household word, driving Mattel, Texas Instruments, and Timex out of the computer business. But through it all, there have been ups and downs. Back in 1959, when this was Tramiel's Toronto office, he went for money to a finance company called Atlantic Acceptance. And there got Commodore tied in with C. Powell Morgan. Through Atlantic, Morgan was taking money from the public and putting it into fraudulent loans. In June 1965, Atlantic Acceptance went bust. Investors and creditors lost $80 million. Life savings vanished. Although Tramiel was never formally charged, a royal commission concluded that he'd been far more than an innocent bystander in the whole fiasco.
What would you say to somebody watching here who lost money, maybe their life savings in Atlantic Acceptance, say, all well and good, he probably built Commodore on my money?
Well, on June 17th, or June 16th, I was worth $3 million. On June 17th, I was worth 0. I lost every dime I had when Atlantic went bankrupt.
But the Royal Commission, as I read it, says quite clearly that you were more than a dutiful and helpless witness to all this. You were a part of it.
Well, I believe that, with no question, if that's the case, that the government of Ontario wasted their money of having a Royal Commission, that if somebody is guilty, they didn't put him in jail.
They didn't charge you.
That's right. That's if I would be a citizen of Ontario, I will throw the government out.
But it seems to have been a monkey on your back ever since.
How was the monkey on my back?
It follows
I
you
walked
around.
out. I since that time, right, without Atlantic, right, starting from scratch, I came out as a multi-millionaire, was able to finance a brand new company. If this is a monkey on my back, I would like to have more monkeys.
Trammell resurrected Commodore with money from another Toronto financier, Irving Gould. They built today's Commodore together until, a year ago, Gould, the chairman, challenged his president's rambunctious bullying style.
I have my formula. He knew the formula. I gave him certain ultimatums. He did not live up to those. And if he did not, I just quit, walked out.
Are you out to bury Commodore?
I'm out to bury any competitor. And Commodore is a competitor.
Is it a grudge match, though?
Absolutely not.
You say business is war? Do you really believe that?
I really do.
But in war, anything goes.
Yes.
And in business?
Anything goes.
Some people use a rapier when they do business. Some people use a sword or a saber. He uses a battle axe, and he plays to win. And there's no brutality in it. It's
Former Commodore executive Michael Tomczyk.
You have to be that tough to survive in this business. You don't care who you run over. It's all war. Do whatever is necessary.
Of course not. You have a choice. You can be tough and successful, or quiet and placid and a failure.
My image of him, of Jack, is, pounding on the desk and saying, I will not be defeated. I will get them somehow.
Bob McDonald has his own company now, but he used to run Commodore's computer division under Trammell.
What's that like to deal with day in, day out? If you're being chewed out, if you're fighting all the time? What does it make you feel like at the end of the day?
Well, it either makes you feel extremely frustrated because you spent your whole day doing nothing but arguing the same argument you did before, or if you're frightened of that kind of a person, you go home and throw up and try to get your courage for the next day.
He was so aggressive that Commodore executives came out with their own computer game called the Jack Attack. In it, a small round figure stomps around, squashing people's heads. That's Trammell's reputation. Drive the staff, squeeze the suppliers, anything for lower prices. And if you don't like it, sue me.
What's your secret? How do you get the prices down? What do you see when you go to a company like IBM or a computer company like Apple? What do you see in that corporate organization?
Waste. I see too many people, too many rules, too much structure, and no involvement.
Most of the computer markets...
There's lean and there's cutthroat. Bob McDonald.
Or most of the computer manufacturers look at what he does as essentially, somebody who prostitutes the market.
What do you mean by that?
He ruins the market for everybody else, and that he ruins the reputation of high-tech manufacturers through some of his ethical practices.
But plenty disagree. Jamie Copeland and 30 other true believers from Commodore followed Trammell over to Atari.
We are not in the toy business. We are not in the Cabbage Patch business. We are in the computing business, and we believe we do it better than anybody in the area.
Somebody that buys this product today, what's to say that Atari's going to be around in 6 months or a year from now to support it?
First of all, you are buying a reputation of a man that has done more in the personal computer industry than anyone alive to date, who has been referred to as the Henry Ford of the computer business.
By you.
And by others. Okay.
Copeland is trying to sell the buyers from Canadian Tire, Canada's biggest retailer for home computers.
One of 6 or 7 new models. The real battle of the trenches will be done against Apple and IBM. We're not even considering Commodore as competition in 1985.
And Commodore says exactly the same thing about Atari. They're both rushing to get new, more powerful machines on the market, both hoping that bigger home computers are more than a passing fad. an expensive status symbol that few families really need.
How ugly is it between those two firms?
It's a stab in the back.
How dirty does this business get?
As dirty as possible to get the market.
You as a reporter who covers this industry, do you think Trammell can pull this off?
He can pull it off.
Save Atari?
He can save Atari, no doubt.
How?
With his product.
In a business that's as risky as this, it takes a tremendous...
Mark Manson is a Wall Street analyst who says Trammell may have the product, but he still needs $100 million to get it on the shelves.
What do you think the chance is that he's going to pull Atari out, that it'll be another Chrysler story?
Well, when you use the analogy of Chrysler story, I would expect Chrysler to be here 10 years from now. The issue is not whether Jack Tramiel and Atari are going to be here 10 years from now. The immediate issue is whether they're going to be here by next Christmas.
Will they be? What do you think?
I think not. But I didn't think they were going to make it to the show.
What keeps driving you? You got a fortune? You built one company? Any sane person would retire.
I believe just because you have money, money is only a tool, and you have to make sure to apply this tool the proper way. I believe that an individual, as long as he's breathing and his eyes open, he has to work and he has to be part of society, not just to sit there and rot.
Maybe you're just so competitive you can't live without your war games.
Could be. Could be.
The Fifth Estate returns.